Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Underdog episode. Today, we have Season 4, Episode 1, Wilt. Takes place April 2026. A single pink petal is floating to the ground. As it falls, footsteps crunch on the ground. As the sound of them gets closer, the petal touches the ground and the foot stomps on it. It zooms up to Dylan walking, a neutral look on his face. It shows that he's in an empty graveyard. He droops his head, looking at the singular dark blue flower he's holding. He stops walking, standing beside a grave cluttered with flowers and other items. Dylan kneels in front of it and places the blue flower in the other bundles. He looks at the grave, wiping his nose. "Hey, bud." It cuts to the front of the grave, showing he's at Alice's grave. Dylan closes his eyes, looking away. "Been a while since we talked, huh?" Dylan fiddles with a spike of grass below him before taking a deep breath, getting ready to talk again. 29. That's the amount of people I've killed since you... Dylan sighs, not being able to finish his sentence. I've tried stopping, going to the warehouse, saying anything to them, really. Dylan looks at the noon sky, clenching his jaw. Fought this guy with cannon arms again, I guess. Zara's leading the team now. Dylan looks back at the grave, but as he's about to say something, a footstep fills his ears, making him immediately stand up and face the sound. Relax. Dylan looks at the girl. She's not too much taller than him, and she has a pleasant look on her face. You know him? Dylan flicks his eyes between her and the flower she's holding. The girl gestures to the grave as she talks. He was my cousin. We weren't too close, but I knew him. She walks to the other side of the grave across from Dylan, placing the flowers to the side of the headstone. What about you? Dylan looks away, thinking what info to give this girl. Me and him were friends. The girl nods. Name's Dylan. Dylan looks back down at the girl, as does she. Mandy. Dylan squints at her, trying to read her. Well, I was just wrapping up. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Dylan kneels back down and his hand hovering near the headstone. I'm really trying. Wish you were here to guide me. Mandy watches as Dylan finishes his conversation, trying to not make it obvious she looks around the graveyard. Dylan stands up, brushing off his knees. It was nice to meet you, Dylan. Dylan starts to walk away without responding. Mandy raises an eyebrow but just lets him leave. Dylan just keeps walking until a huge explosion appears in the distance, piercing the air, making Dylan and Mandy snap their heads to it. But when Mandy tries to see Dylan, he's gone. And it cuts to Dylan flying through the air. He's now wearing the Underdog suit. It's all the same design, but on his back is a brown holster for none other than the Wanderer blades. Dylan's going fast against the wind, dead set on the explosion. He lands at the side of the smoking building and enters the exposed hole. He looks around before seeing Fuse, the man with the cannon arms. Dylan sighs seeing this. How did you escape? Fuse turns around and sees Dylan, immediately arming one of his cannon arms, aiming it at Dylan. Ooh, I'm so scared of your cannon. Fuse stands up and his voice breaks the silence. So cocky. Dylan reaches to his back and pulls out both Wanderer blades, gripping them for life. Seeing this, Fuse begins to activate a shot from his arm. Dylan notices this and chucks one of the blades at Fuse, but a purple portal transports Fuse away, making the blade just stick into the wall. Dylan closes his eyes and sighs, walking up to the blade on the wall, pulling it out, chipping the wall. Before he turns around, though, a voice fills the room. Planning on killing him, too. Dylan's eyes open, and he holsters the blade onto his back, turning around to Zara. Wasn't rhetorical. Dylan steps closer to Zara. Just you here? Zara takes a cautionary step backwards. If you're asking if Alan's coming, he's not. Dylan stands a couple more seconds before turning to the hole in the building, starting to walk away. Can't I forever? Dylan stops in his tracks. Don't act like you want me to come back. Dylan waits for a response, but Zara keeps quiet, making Dylan jump out the hole, beginning to fly away. The camera stays on Zara, and a streak of blue lightning speeds next to her. It's Alan. He talk about me? He's not the forgiving type. It cuts to a door in a candlelit room. It's an office space with cleared out cubicles, but there's a little setup in one of them, containing a bed and some books stacked up. Off to the side is a corkboard with pictures pinned into it. Pictures of Lotus next to pictures of an older man with glasses. The door begins to open and Dylan, still in suit, walks in the room, closing the door behind him. He goes to the bed and sits down. He reaches up and pulls his mask off, setting it to the side. He runs his hands over his face, groaning. He looks up, his eyes droopy and bags flying below them. He leans back and rotates his body, stretching his legs to the end of the bed. He sighs, closing his eyes. As he starts to drift off, something appears outside of the window of the wall of the building. He squints his eyes at it, trying to depict what it is. His mind swirls, trying to see what it is, but before he can make it out, whatever it is comes crashing through the window, making Dylan get up immediately. Quickly, a foot slams into his head, making him knock his head back into the cubicle wall to the side of the bed. Dylan starts to open his eyes, but then something fills his vision, before going to black with a loud thud. Voices can be heard, but they're unrecognizable. Slowly, Dylan starts to wake up and tries moving his arms, but they're tied behind the chair he's sitting in. He lifts his head up and feels the absence of his underdog mask, and sees a group of 4 people talking, with one of them pacing around. They're all wearing pitch black uniforms with shoulder, chest, and leg armor on, with a strange-looking S with a serpent intertwined through it on their shoulder. The one pacing is looking back and forth from Dylan and the group talking. Finally, as the person notices Dylan's awakening and snaps her head to it, the person goes to the other group and points back at Dylan, making them all look at Dylan. One of them, a taller, slimmer one, goes up to Dylan, standing in front of him. "Look who's awake." "Who are you people?" The man in front of Dylan crosses his arms as the other 3 fill up to his sides. "Name's Sergeant Wiley." "But we're not here for me. We're here for you, Underdog." Dylan Ezekiel. "Oh, Underdog doesn't even make sense." Dylan scoffs. "And for the note, we have dampeners." At this, Dylan tries to activate his powers behind the chair, but nothing happens. "What do you want?" "Well, we're just going to ask you a few questions." Wiley flashes a fake smile, making Dylan squint his eyes at him. "First off, tell me more about this team of yours." Dylan thinks for a moment about what he should respond with. "They're not my team anymore." Wiley makes a pouty face, mockingly of course. "How does one lose so much power?" "They were dragging me down." "It's good to have people back you up." "Damn right." Dylan looks at the woman to the left of Wiley, who's grinning, also noticing his blades behind them sitting on a table. He looks back at Wiley. "That's Officer Montgomery." Wiley points at the girl who just talked. "Sergeant and officer, you guys part of the military?" All 4 of them laugh. "You wish. Military loves Underdog. Us, though, we hate you." Dylan leans his head back, laughing. "Any more questions?" "We're not even close to being finished here." Dylan starts to get impatient and irritated. "After these questions, you're going to kill me?" Wiley forms a wicked smile. "You sure you want to know?" Dylan stares blankly at Wiley. "Well, it was nice meeting you." Dylan opens his palms and the blades on the table fly to him, slicing open Montgomery's side and going through one of the unnamed soldiers, killing him. The blades curve around the chair, making Wiley and the other officers dive out of the way. Dylan finally catches the blades and cuts a rope binding his hands. He gets out of the chair and kicks it back into the wall. He grips the blades tighter and starts walking to Wiley, who's still trying to get off the floor. Dylan kicks Wiley's head, making a thud on the floor as it hits the ground. "Well, shit. Look at you." Wiley groans and begins to reach for his pistol on his hip. Dylan chucks one of the blades at his arm that's reaching, making him scream in pain. And he turns and slings the blade at the other person standing's chest, cutting right through it. Dylan calls to the blade as it flies over the now lifeless body of the soldier. Dylan then turns back to Wiley, who's squeezing down on the wound on his arm with the blade, bloodied, lying next to him. He opens his right palm and the blade zips to it. "How?" Dylan glances at Montgomery on the ground, grimacing, then back to Wiley. "Now you know why they call me Underdog." Dylan lunges at Wiley's chest with the blade before it cuts Dylan walking out of the empty room into a hallway that's mostly clean besides the metal boxes laid around. Dylan starts to walk down the hallway, his head raised high in case this building has more soldiers in it. Eventually, he reaches the door at the end of the hallway, a tall white door with a black handle. Dylan grabs it, twists it, and slowly pushes the door open. Through the small crevice, he can hear a garbled static sound, along with the sound of occasional voices cutting into the static. Dylan opens the door a little more, not seeing too much more. He fully opens the door, revealing a room with a large radio system on top of a dark green table. Dylan steps in and notices another door inside and to the right. Dylan goes up to the door and opens it slightly too. Nudging it open, he doesn't see anything again, so he flings it open, revealing a blank room with another door on the other end. He groans, and it cuts to Dylan opening door after door. Every room is mostly blank, but entirely all not important. Finally, he opens the door and leads outside, where it's still dark and the moon is glowing. Dylan steps out and closes the door behind him and starts walking away. The camera lingers on the building, showing text on the wall saying Compound A. But Dylan doesn't notice this as he continues walking. Outside the compound is an open field, but the glow of the city is still visible. Dylan takes a deep breath, trying to steady his racing heart. Finally, after getting far enough away, he holsters his blades and lowers his arms to his side. It cuts to the warehouse, and Zara is sitting on the roof, her legs dangling over the side. She looks at something in the distance, a hill with a small mound of dirt with a makeshift wooden cross in front of it. It cuts at the pile of dirt, the wind blowing harsh against it, but calm. Very calm.